Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Hello, you're welcome to today's edition of Money Radio on Leadership Podcast. Money Radio brings you the latest development in Nigeria's business and economy cycles and issues of businesses around the world. My name is Innocent Odo, and today in this segment, we shall be talking about technology, and we're taking it on the conference of parties, that is a climate change conference going on in Glasgow, Scotland, will be our focus, and the effort being made by world leaders in that conference to push for green technology, and especially the support being made by the richer nations of the world to assist developing countries to cut emission. And of course, it will interest you to know that President Muhammadu Buhari also participated in the conference where he pledged that Nigeria will achieve net emission by 2060. And so some of the developments around Cop26, as that conference has come to be known, will be our major focus in this very edition of Money Radio. I'm not alone in the studio. I'm here with the very important guest that we always have in the program, Haniel Jafaro. Haniel, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Haniel is an expert in ICT. You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
How is the world of ICT doing?
Well, we are there, expanding and growing and making impact.
Yes, indeed. That is what it needs. We need, especially in this period. The issue is Cop26 in Glasgow.
Mm-hmm.
I started on the 31st of October. It's a 12-day event, which will end, I think, sometime on Thursday. Okay. Now, the world leaders are talking about how to cut gas emission. Where is the place of Nigeria in this whole program?
Well, we are at the bottom. that's the truth of the matter. We are at the bottom. We're trying to make impact. We're trying to make promises that we may not be able to live up to. And the reason is because everything in Nigeria will depend on fuel.
Yes.
Most things in Nigeria will depend on fuel. Even in fact, the recent one that we thought we've helped the world by ensuring that we don't cook with charcoal and kerosene, whereby everybody had to move to gas. Yes. Most persons move to gas. Now the gas is not expensive and
they are moving back
to where they came from. So it's just sad that that is where we find ourselves now. There are many things that needs to be done. There are many things that needs to be put in place. We can't. I don't see us achieving that 2060 projection. Not that it's not possible, but the person that made the promise will not be the one in the aim of affecting that time.
Yeah.
There's usually the Nigerian government structure lack continuity. So that's going to be a serious hindrance to ensuring that promise is fulfilled. But beyond even the promises, what are the present government, what are they doing to ensure that we reduce the amount of carbon that our equipment and appliances are emitting, that is bringing about the change in climate and all that. There is nothing we're doing to ensure that. So we can only say that we will see what we can do, but so far so good. No research is going on to ensure that we meet up to that, because there is a need for research, which we've stressed on in this particular program, the need for extensive research. Our zincs can be researched in a way. We can implement the technology in a way that our zinc becomes solar instead of us putting solar on the zinc. Yet on the roofing sheet, instead of putting solar on the roofing sheet, you will make the roofing sheet itself to be solar. So you don't need to buy a roofing sheet separate from the solar panel. So the solar panel becomes the roofing sheet. It will only come forth when there is research in place that will make it happen. Electric cars that will ensure that we don't use those kind of fuel engine that tends to emit carbon. Research needs to bring forth all this. Even though we know that in the Western world, there have been rechargeable pump, where you go to recharge your car because your car is running on running via electronic appliances and a battery. You need to go and recharge your car. Now we don't have the roads to ensure that we run on those kind of cars, because it will involve you having a well-tarred road and the likes. We don't have the pumps. Most of our filling stations are more of fueling stations, so they are not electric charging stations and all that. So there are a whole lot of things that needs to be done for us to even begin to look at the possibility of achieving that projection.
2060. That's a long time from now, and the rest of the world, especially the richer nations of the world, have given us hope that they want to contribute at least $100 billion every year for the next 5 years. So we're talking about $500 billion that will be available to help developing nations like Nigeria to achieve that net emission by whatever year they projected. Some are trying to see, the Western world, they are trying to set standard to achieve such objectives, such aims. Some are saying, okay, by 2030 or 2040, at least they should have achieved a significant emission, But Nigeria is saying 2060. So why would Nigeria not play a role, despite all the support that they are supposed to get, playing?
We can't play along, because we know ourselves. We know what we have. We know the infrastructure that we have. We can only play along if we have the funds to overhaul all the infrastructure and also cater for the rural environment. Now the rural environment, and they are still not using gas. Take note. Well, the cooking gas is mainly for urban and suburban environments. The rural environment, they are still using the coal and possibly kerosene. So, and you know fully well that we have more rural environment and urban environment. So if you want to emit, it means that you have to ensure that you replace all their charcoal with cooking gas. Now, who helps them to refill the gas?
Now, that's a big challenge, because you just mentioned that while we are trying to leave the use of the coal, and there was encouragement some time ago that people should not embark on using gas. But suddenly the prices of gas in the market skyrocketed, which has now forced people back to where they are now. So they now have to go to the bushes and start cutting trees, which of course are going to cause more harm to the environment. Deforestation, of course. And there's no regulatory framework that will stop that from happening when there is no encouragement by the government to help the people, move away from that kind of behavior. Now, are we not in a kind of catch-22 situation where we're trying to promise the rest of the world that we're going to achieve such a net emission by 2060? Then the situation on ground is not proving that we're ready for anything.
We should just be realistic with our promises. Well, maybe because we need funds. Maybe because we need the funds, so we'll give promises that we may not be able to achieve. But I doubt if we have the necessary, because it will also involve human capital.
Yes,
it will involve willpower, political willpower, to ensure that this is achieved and all that. Do we have all that in place? Do we have those that are fighting against it? Do we even have an NGO that is fighting against it? We don't. We don't have NGO fighting against these things. And all the NGOs that we have, most of them are either fighting charitable NGOs or education-based NGOs and all that. Do we have NGOs that is fighting against the environment that we find ourselves? That humans are impacting on the environment we find ourselves. A major reason why those in the urban area tends to live longer than those in the urban area is because of the air that we breathe in. That's a major impact, because the density, the population density in the urban area, and the kind of carbon that the appliances emit would only make us to live a shorter, to have a shorter lifespan compared to those that are in the village that are close to the leaves that are emitting the oxygen for us to breathe it in and all that. So if we want to ensure, if we want to bring the lifestyle of the village back to the city, then most persons will not be able to I was even discussing some time ago with someone, and I was saying that these village people, they are trying. I doubt if I can live in the village. And now the truth of the matter is that they live longer, but I don't want to go there and live like that. But I want to live long. So it will involve a whole lot of sacrifice from us in the city, because all these appliances that we're using, our cars, VIO, road safety, what are they doing? When you see that the car is smoking and they just leave the car to pass by, these are the things that cause these are the emission that these are the emission of carbon. These are the things that bring about the emission of carbon. So road safety needs to get involved. VIO needs to get involved in the area of cars. In the area of gas, we need to ensure that we have probably an enforcement agency that will help in ensuring that we don't put all these things. If we're using kerosene, there are regulatory framework where you use kerosene. If you're using coal, there are regulatory framework just to ensure that you reduce the level of technology, the level of impact this carbon is having on the air.
Okay. Now, there's one thing that is instructive, especially in Nigeria now. Some part of the country we have desertification. Now, it's not an indictment on the government that when we have ministries of environment both at the state level and at the federal level, and I'm told that for you can always reclaim an environment where desertification has encroached by ensuring that you plant trees. Now, some experts are actually saying that planting trees, you can plant as much as 1 million trees in a year to stop the impact of desertification in the place that have been affected, and so reclaiming the environment, which will also give you employment, for the youth, and then saving the environment from such a harm. So I wonder if Nigerian government, whether stakeholders, like you say, in the country, really understand what this whole climate change is.
I don't know. Most of us don't understand what climate change is about. Most of us don't understand what green technology is all about. Now, for the sake of probably our viewers, green technology is any technology that helps to reduce the impact of humans on the environment. The impact, those things that humans are doing, this has nothing to do with any external factor. It is we ourselves that we are causing the problem for ourselves. So any technology that helps in ensuring that we humans don't impact the environment is a green technology. So now the adverse effects of us not doing that would mean that we'll breathe in unhealthy air. There's going to be high increase in sea level. The ozone layer is going to be damaged, and all that. These are impacts that at the end of the day would impact on us. We are the cause, and we'll be the one that will bear the consequences. Now, Cop26 is aimed at ensuring that we reduce the impacts, that we reduce the causes of these things, and we also research to bring forth how we can ensure that we eliminate it completely.
All right. The other thing is eliminating this completely, and Nigeria being so dependent on fossil fuel, and this is where we have the challenge. How do we navigate away from this, very important aspect of our economy that has generated much for us in terms of foreign exchange? That is what the rest of the world is asking us to do, which is really not easy for us to do, and that is why it's understandable why Buhari had to make that long, projection of 2060. Probably to enable Nigeria to gradually transit away from the fossil fuel. It's becoming a very big challenge to us because of the framework and structures that were not available, that have not made available to pursue such objective. And that's why we're finding it difficult. And that's what we're telling people, that they should understand that climate change is real. and the world is gathered in Glasgow. The other time it was in France, Paris, France, where they also made some effort to generate ideas on how to, tackle the impact of climate change. Now, this one is in Glasgow, going on right now, and they are also coming up with ideas and measures to ensure that the world is once again, gathered and put, in proper perspective over this matter. Now we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll continue the discussion. If you're just joining us, we're talking about the place of Nigeria in the effort by the world to tackle climate change. We'll be back in a short while.
Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we're looking at the place of Nigeria in the global push for green technology. A conference going on, the climate change conference is going on in Glasgow, and the world is trying to find solutions to the impact of climate change. They call Cop26. That's a conference of parties. And the richer nations of the world have actually pledged to commit $100 billion every year to help developing countries to tackle the impact of climate change. Now, Aniel, before we went on that short break, we're talking about our readiness to, join the rest of the world in tackling this menace. The rest of the world, the richer nations of the world now have actually, made a pledge of $100 billion every year. So we have about 5 years. In 5 years, we're going to have about $500 billion made available. But that will be made available for the developing countries of the world, including Nigeria, to have access to such funds, so that they will use it, to help them tackle the impact of this thing. So, but now, in terms of creating structures and framework to access those funds, how do you see Nigeria?
We need to, the structures needs to start from policies, and policies are generally they come by law, and the legislative arm needs to be involved in this aspect. We need to ensure that we have a regulatory framework that bring forth, because these funds, most of these funds should go into our accessing these funds should be for the purpose of undergoing research that will help in reducing some of these things. Yes. Now, green technology, while most persons are concerned about the whole carbon and the emission of carbon, there is also the place of recycling. It's also falls under green technology, where you recycle things and not make things to harm the environment. So instead of you making things to be dirt and also making things to harm environment, like all the dirt that we have in the house, we can recycle them and use them for other purposes. Now there's also a place for agriculture, sustainable agriculture, because the environment can be impacted in such a way that you'll not be able to grow your agricultural produce again on the land. So how do you do it? Just like it is in Niger Delta. Does it now mean that you can't still grow, you can't still engage in farming in Niger Delta area? You can. There are technologies, that's what's called sustainable agriculture. There are technologies you can put in place to ensure that you are growing just as if you're growing it on a fertile land. There are technologies that makes you ensure that you can still grow your agricultural produce via those technology in your environment. So this research, this fund, when we get this fund or when we access this fund, we should ensure that we channel it into this area, the area of sustainable agriculture, the area of recycling, the area of then as you earlier mentioned regarding the whole dependent on fossil fuel. We depend on it does not mean that is all we have. It is our level of dependence that's making it look as if that is all we have. We have a whole lot of mineral resources that we can depend on that will not harm the environment that we call Nigeria. Because at the end of the day, it is the environment that you harm that is where it's not as though that you harm the emission is done in Nigeria and those in Ghana would take the consequences. It will be the ones who experience the consequences. It is Nigerians that will experience. So it is for us, and it is we are the one causing the problem for ourselves. So if we can look for a way to navigate and stop this over dependence on fossil fuel, I think it's going to help us to achieve that projection 2060. And truth be told, if we want to leave fossil fuel today, we can still generate more than the amount that we're generating from it. If we truly want to focus on other areas, it's just that we don't want to let go. We don't want to take our eyes off that this oil thing. We don't just want to, because it's easier. We have so much depend on it. We are comfortable with it. But whether we like it or not, the world will force us out of it, because by the time 80% of the world are now using electric cars, 80% of the world are now using most of the things they are using the electrical base, you will find that nobody is requesting for oil again. So you will be forced to look for other means. So why wait till that time when we'll be forced? Why not look at ways we can mitigate that risk by putting in measures to look at other aspects of the economy, or things we can put in the economy that would ensure that we grow and we don't depend so much on oil.
Yes, just like you said, that there should be a proactive measure to be able to tackle the impact of this. But do we always have to depend on the Western world to give us support, give us funding for us to understand what is needed to be done in our own environment? I'll give an example. For instance, you talk about oil exploration in the Niger Delta. There was a time that the World Environment Program came up with a figure or a statistic that was really scary, that it would take the Ogoni land, for instance, where oil had been explored for years, it would take them 30 years of constant reclamation effort before they can have a cleaner and saner environment that will go back to farm and enjoy farming in those kind of environment. Now, these are some of the things that we've been talking about. Investment. Now we're talking about solution now. How then do we harmonize resources and pursue this objective? Because it's not about promising the world that we're going to end the emission or achieve net emission in 2060, where there is no program on ground. You talk about research, you talk about the institutes, you talk about the people. How do we mobilize these people? How do we mobilize resources? How do we condition the mind of the people that we need to move away from this fossil fuel that is causing damage to the environment, and then join the rest of the world in trying to find a solution to addressing our problem? Now we're talking about the desertification from the northern part of the country, which is of course causing insecurity, because people are now being moved away as a result of environmental factors to come here. A lot of them don't really have nothing to do, and violence is ever growing. So talking about solution now, how do we harmonize this our resources and people to do this?
Well, let me not use the word the problem. The challenge is that everybody that is involved, or all the factors and all the stakeholders that are involved, they are looking on to one particular stakeholder for disbursement or direction. And that stakeholder they are looking on to is the government. So that brings to the government, that puts the challenge on the shoulder of the government to, first of all, have understand what it means to live in an environment that hazardous. Let the government understand what it means to live in an environment that the air is unhealthy. Let the government understand what it means to live in an environment where people can't farm. Let the government understand the impact of all the things that we have done to our environment that is invariably bringing forth consequences that we are now the one bearing. The government will first understand this. After the government have understood the context of this climate change and green technology, then there should now be willpower to ensure that it is reversed. Because if you don't, you must first understand before you are now putting the willpower. If you are putting in the willpower before understanding, you will end up wasting resources. So we'll first of all understand the context of climate change, the context of environmental impact, what we have done to cause environmental impact or that is invariably affecting us now. Understand what it means not to be able to farm. Understand what it means to have deforestation and the like. Understand once we're able to understand the context of this thing called climate change and the impact that it is already causing, the impact it is causing, raising the sea level, claiming lands that allowing the sea to now claim lands and all that. By the time the government understands the consequences that come as a result of the environment that we have so much damaged, it should give them the need to now desire to solve it, because it is not a thing of one person. It is like a pandemic that you don't know who would be next. You get, it is not a thing of the poor, it is not a thing of the rich. It is not a thing of the north or the south. It is not a thing of it impacts everybody. As long as you are human, you would be part of, you would experience the consequences. So why don't we, as a result of after understanding the context of this climate change, put in the willpower to undergo research if it involves us grooming, accrediting institutes that would give us the human capital for us to undergo this kind of research. Because truth be told, how many Nigerian universities have degree in environmental management? Yes. How many Nigerian universities have that? So it now means that we are depending on the Western world to even bring their human capital for us to be able to carry out this. So we need to train those that needs to undergo this research, bring forth products that will help to reduce this thing. If the world decides not to even do it and we are doing it, we will be safer.
Yes, indeed, it will be safer if we do the needful. And there is enormous effort that Nigeria must put in place to be able to tackle the impact of climate change. And we have been talking about the place of Nigeria in the global push for green technology, in line with the conference of the climate change called Cop26 that is ongoing in Glasgow, Scotland. The President of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, has actually made a pledge to the rest of the world that Nigeria will achieve net emission by 2060. How realistic that will be, only time will tell. And it's on that note that we end today's edition of Money Radio. We promise to bring you a fresh edition when next will come. Remain blessed and bye-bye.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert payments, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.